Good.
Josh is our National Special Hazards Product Manager, Drew. And
Okay.
and he
Not just foam.
yeah, he covers he's going to be covering clean agent and foam. He comes to us from the state of Pennsylvania.
I've heard it's a good state.
Yeah. How long have you been out here, Josh?
I've been in Michigan 3 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's been a good time.
So he was doing a lot of training, doing the training, the seminars that we conduct out there in Michigan, the 2-day seminars and what have you. So he's been busy since the fluorine free foam has come out.
Yeah, you got to be really busy with all the conversions and just questions on it, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know what day of the week it is.
Yeah, I know.
It's been crazy for sure.
Josh, where's your background? Where did you come from in Pennsylvania?
I was a AHJ in Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, nice.
So I did that. I was there about 11 years and a career firefighter before that. So I was actually the fire chief and the fire marshal. So it's been about 18-ish years in the fire service with a paycheck, and then did some volunteer before that.
Nice.
And transitioned out of that here to Viking in Michigan. So it's been a good run.
Fun World 7 problems. Right.
Right.
Drew, I first met Josh. I went up to AGF to have lunch with Jimmy and George.
Yeah.
And I go, hey, you want to meet a new Viking employee? And Josh comes in. Hey, Josh, how are you doing? I think that was your final week in Pennsylvania, and after that, you went to Michigan. You just wanted to stop by and get up to date on all the AGF products.
Yeah, that wasn't the last week. That was meeting with everybody and I didn't know any of the faces, so it's kind of cool to see it come full circle.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
All right, we're at 2 o'clock. Let's give like 2 more minutes and then we'll get kicking.
Yeah. So Josh, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the new dry valve, the new deluge valve. We'll go through the system valve configurator, build a riser for a dry valve, build a riser for a single interlock electric release. That seems to be the most popular. Sure. And then I'll touch on I'll touch on all the different features of those 2 valves, and then we'll move into the sprinkler selector program. I'll just arbitrarily pick a sprinkler for Drew to go through the format, and then touch on Viking tools for Revit, and then we're going to segue into SFFF, and I'll kind of let you take it from there.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And basically just kind of do an overview of the transition considerations, and you're probably going to have some questions come at you from field technicians, right, Drew? That'll probably get
I've got
involved
some.
in.
I've got some specific questions as well that I get a lot, and I'm just curious about. So, and I'll handle the Q&A. So if something comes across, we'll get it answered. So,
okay,
there's about 50 people on, so I'll wait. You know what? Let's just get into it. So,
Okay.
We're being recorded. So this is a live Zoom webinar. It's our first time using Zoom here at Inspect Point. I've used GoToMeeting for a while, so this is a little new. If there's any technical difficulties, feel free to blame me. But anyway, I'm pleased to have Josh Overholt from Viking on the special hazard side, and Jim Dooley on the business development side, who him and I go way back. He brought me over from JCI Tyco back in the day, and it was a lot of fun, Jim.
Yeah, that was an enjoyable time, and we hate to see you go, but we understand why you went, and you're doing very well here, and everyone at Viking's really pleased at the success that you're experiencing. So
yeah, and it's it was a vision that we saw, that I saw a big avenue in, and you know what, I'm partnering back up with Viking, so we can kind of hit that at the end if we want. So
Sure.
everybody out there, if there's any questions, there is a Q&A section if you want to toss something in the chat. Earl Hood says you never looked better, Jimmy. So
Well, thank you, Earl. I'll get that to see you there one of these days, buddy.
right. So what I'll do is I'll throw up some slides. I'll kind of, and I'll handle some of the questions. I have some questions of my own since I know the Viking product pretty well.
Yeah.
And Josh will come in with some of the SFFF on the foam side. So let's kick this thing off. And if you haven't, if you registered, we are recording this, so you'll get a copy of this, after this webinar, probably tomorrow sometime. So if there's any questions, feel free to reach out, but kick it away, Jim.
Okay, well, thank you, Drew. Today we're going to be talking about some of the latest new technologies out from Viking, and over the past year and a half, we've introduced some new technologies that address a lot of the issues that are in the fire protection industry today. And some of them are like corrosion mitigation. Many of the contractors and a lot of the engineering firms are now entering into that Revit world. We've made enhancements to storage protection with new design criteria for our ESFRs, and new sensor technology for fire detection of battery energy storage systems. And that's a big thing in our industry today. But we're going to focus on the new Viking dry pipe valve and the new Viking deluge valve. And we'll go through some digital tools that are available to you to really simplify the process of building a dry riser. And more importantly, where the challenge lies is always what do I need for a pre-action riser? So we'll address that now. And I'm going to ask Drew. Fortunately, Drew and I working together, he's very familiar with the system valve configurator. So what we're going to do now is go through this valve configurator and build a dry valve riser, and show you how simple it is to build the riser. And we're just waiting for that 3D rendering to come up.
So this is just the web browser, right? They can just go to webtools.com, whatever this is, right?
Yeah, well, you can stay right there, Drew. And what we'll do here is these are the three dry valves that are available to you. The Model G series will be discontinued the end of this year. So the Model G dry valve, that Model G valve will not be available for dry or pre-action configurations the end of this year. So you'll have to select from the old Model F dry valve, which is our legacy valve, or our new Model VXR dry valve. So what we'll do is we'll use that for today's example there, Drew. Just start configuring that dry valve. So it's going to be building a 3D model rendering right here, and we'll go with a 4-inch dry valve. And the orientation of the trim will be vertical. It does come pre-assembled from the factory, as you can see right there. And then we'll go with, let's go with the pre-trimmed riser with the butterfly valve and the switches, Drew.
Okay.
All right, and then we add on, and we'll add on, let's say we'll add on an accelerator. We'll add on the anti-column device, air maintenance device. And the reason I'm suggesting that, Drew, is when we go through the animation, all of those additional components are in the animation.
Oh, wow.
So what you do now is you go to your final summary. This sheet here will give you an overview of all the products that you just selected to build that riser. And then you can put all those components into well, actually what you can do is just complete that information there, that contact information, just forward that on to your customer service representative, and he or she will get back with you and provide you with a price on everything you built for that riser. Now, if you go to the technical section, Drew, there you go. So you have the technical data sheets for all of the products that you just selected. You can create a zip file for submittals to the consulting engineer, or just for your records on that particular project. So you can see there, it took us a minute to build that riser. You'll eventually get a price on it, and you'll have all the technical information for submittal purposes to the consulting engineer or the authority having jurisdiction. So
Let's
now
see
we
how
can move
fast.
on.
Let's see how fast they give me a price, Jimmy.
Well, 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 we'll hold off on that one. Because to be honest with you, I don't know where it goes after that. I'm sure. I mean, I don't know if it goes to corporate or if it goes to one of the supply net locations.
I think it goes to supply net. That's what
Okay. Now, Drew, if you could go back to that configurator again, what I want to do is build a pre-action riser to show how easy that task is.
So I just come back here.
Yeah, just go all the way back. There we go. So yeah, go to pre-action. And I've been with Viking for 31 years. And when I first started with Viking, that was the period when, they were pulling halon systems out of all these buildings throughout the country that were protecting sensitive areas, cultural properties, data centers, whatever the case may be. And the most logical choice for replacement of that halon system was a pre-action system. So I would get calls from fire protection contractors, consulting engineers. Well, look, I need a pre-action system. It's a single interlock pre-action system. What do I need? What does it cost? How do I get a specification put together? And this has really simplified the process. So what you're looking at there are the 4 valves that are available to you. The new VXD, our model F straight through, and our model E angle style. And of course, as I indicated earlier, the model G valve will be going away at the end of this year. So we'll use the VXD to build the riser. So Drew's going to start configuring that. And as he's building a 3D model, rendering is coming up. It's available in a groove by groove or a flange by flange configuration, vertical trim orientation. It comes pre-assembled from the factory. So you can you have 3 configurations there, releasing configurations: single interlock, double interlock, electric, pneumatic, double interlock, electric, electric. The most popular, as everyone knows, is the single interlock electric release. So why don't you hit that, Drew?
Okay.
And hopefully that rendering will come up soon. There you go. So you can see we built that valve. There's your normally closed solenoid valve with all of the related trims. So the entire riser is built there for you. And then we'll go to the final. Well, actually, Drew, let's add the PS10, the PS40, and VSFR 400 panel.
So what's I know you hit it in some of your slides. What's the difference? This is a newer, deluge valve, right?
Yes.
Is this a diaphragm style valve?
Yeah, yes, it is. And we'll touch on that when we get to the individual slide that covers all the features and benefits of that valve. So again, there you have your contact information. You can complete all that information, send that to the customer service representative, and he or she will get back with you with the pricing for that single interlock pre-action system and all the components that you selected to build that riser. The technical data sheets are all there available for you. You can create a zip file for submittal purposes for the consulting engineer. So you can see how simple it is to build that riser. It took us a few minutes to do that. The other thing too about this, and we'll touch on Viking tools for Revit. We have a completed Revit family library of all of our products. So when you build a riser like this, you can very easily, if you're working in Revit, you can drop those families, the valve and the check valve, all into a Revit model.
That's great. That's great.
And then we can move forward there, Drew.
Sure. Let me put this
And
back in presentation mode. Yeah, I was really excited about your VXR. New dry valve is always interesting to hear about.
Yeah, it's available in sizes 2 through 6 inch. It's an externally reset dry pipe valve. It's available in a groove by groove configuration. The footprint's it's a lot smaller than the model F dry pipe valve. It's a lot lighter in weight. If my memory serves me correctly, and Josh, you can chime in if you want. The 4-inch dry valve weighs 40 pounds.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah, so it weighs 40 pounds. So it's a lot easier to work with. The resetting mechanism that that push button down there is on the bottom of the valve, so it's a little more easier to use that to reset that drive valve. There's no chances of that getting damaged at all by virtue of the fact that it's at the bottom of the valve there.
Yeah, because I remember, coming through my career, I started manufacturing the DPV1 valve, and it's a great valve, but the plunger was always the issue, whether getting damaged or just corroding and whatever. So it looks like you guys put it on the bottom of the valve, which I've never seen before, which is cool.
Yeah, and that's worked out real well for us.
Great.
And then we can move on to the next. Now, what we're going to do here, Drew, is we're going to go through. We have a team, our digital team out there in Viking. We have these young ladies that develop these animations that are absolutely incredible. And field technicians can take advantage of this. If they're out in the field and they want to just kind of go over, well, how do you reset the new Viking dry valve? And if you could hit that animation to get that started, it will go through.
No, it's not hitting.
It won't. It will.
That's all right. I know what you mean, and it is great for field technicians because it goes through all the different scenarios of resetting it and tripping it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, is that on the web or is it on an app?
It's on the web. You can go onto the web and have access to all these animations. Not only the new equipment that we're bringing to market, like this dry valve, but we have animations on pre-action systems, wet systems, fire cycle systems, foam systems. So we have a pretty complete library of animations on all of these systems, and are excellent tools for training. And for field technicians who are out there working on Viking valves, they can access the Viking website and get to some of the tools that we have available to them to walk them through resetting a dry valve or encountering any conditions. They can very easily get an answer by just accessing the Viking webpage.
Yep.
And Jim, don't forget the Viking YouTube channel has a lot of these animations and videos on it as well. So that's another great resource for technicians out in the field. They can, kind of scroll through the video and get to the point where they need to be. So those are out there as well.
Exactly, Josh. So now we can move on there. The model VXD deluge valve was introduced about a year ago. So this has been on the market for a while, and this will be replacing the G valve for pre-action type configurations discussed earlier, and that will be discontinued at the end of the year. But as you can see, this valve is available in sizes 1.5" all the way up to 10. And I don't believe there are any other manufacturers that have a 10-inch deluge valve in the market. But this is good when you get into the power and power industry, oil and gas industry, where you're going to encounter some of these very large systems. That valve is going to come in very handy. The valve is available in a groove by groove configuration and a flange by flange configuration. It's offered in electric, pneumatic, and hydraulic release for deluge, and for pre-action, it's available for electric, electric single interlock electric release, double interlock electric pneumatic, or electric to electric. So we have an animation on this too. Should any of the technicians want to go to our webpage or YouTube and just go through the valve.
But yeah, I think those are helpful depending on not the valve itself, but the trim configuration of whether it is single, whether it is double interlock, electric pneumatic, or electric new electric, right? Because there's a lot of, sometimes they look similar, but they're a little bit off, right, from the other one.
Exactly. We know what separates the single from the double. It's the addition of the pneumatic actuator, some other components, and of course, if you're doing a double interlock pre-action system, the design's different. You got to add the 30% because you're calculating the double interlock pre-action system as a dry system.
Yep.
Now, typically, when I built that configuration for the single interlock electric release pre-action system, I went with that because that's the most popular. Factory Mutual typically only accepts double interlock pre-action systems in freezer warehouses. But you will encounter, Joe, as you know, you'll encounter some end users, in the mission critical world or in cultural properties where they insist upon double interlock pre-action systems because they don't want any accidental discharge of water dumping onto that sensitive equipment in that room or artifacts.
Right. Yep.
And then we can move on there.
Oh, there's your the
Yeah.
animation that I can't get going, but it is great.
That's unfortunate. It's pretty good, but anyone who's out there, feel free to visit the Viking webpage and take a look at that.
Yeah, and Colton Platsky from Chesapeake Fire just gave you guys a shout out of all the stuff in the field. So
there you go. Viking tools for Revit. Many of the attendees here at the podcast, Drew, are probably from the contracting end of the business, but when you get into the consulting engineering area of our industry, most of those larger engineering firms, Jacobs, Jensen Hughes, Cosentini, just to mention a few, they're all working in the Revit world. It's being driven by the architects. And we at Viking, we have a full complement of tools and piping utilities that are available to engineering firms and or contractors that are working in the Revit world. We have a clean agent assistant program where you can very easily design and calculate a clean agent system all within Revit. We have that integrated the system valve configurator that we went through. As I indicated earlier, you can drop those families right into the Revit model. We have a completed Revit family library of all of our products, all of Fireflex's products, and we have a connection to ASC. So you can access all the ASC families and use that to drop into the Revit model. We have a BIM estimator. We also have a high X estimator. If you're doing any work in the 409 type of world, or working for the Department of Defense, in that world, we can build you can use that high X estimator to determine the amount of foam required for the hangar and the amount of generators required to protect that hangar. So, once you get into, you feel that you're going to be getting into the Revit world, reach out to your territory manager, and then we can make arrangements, do a webinar for your group on Viking tools for Revit. We're going to be introducing a hydraulic assistant desktop version in about 2 months that you'll be able to do on its own, a desktop version, and that same version will also be you'll be able to utilize that in the Revit model as well. So
that's great.
And there you go, Drew. You can move on to the next.
There you go. I got really excited about this. We were talking before the podcast started how I used to use the Excel sheet.
Yeah, exactly. And Drew, back as you know, back when you were working for Viking, you would get a call from a consulting engineer or a fire protection contractor. Hey, I'm looking for a sprinkler head that's factory mutual approved for ordinary hazard occupancy with an extended coverage listing. Now, it would take you a lot of time to find all that information in a data book or on a web page or whatever the case may be. So what we'll do is we'll go through this sprinkler selector program, and I'm glad that you're navigating this for me because you're familiar with doing it. So you have a filtering scheme over there on the left-hand side, and you can, Drew, I'll let you decide what you want to pick.
Yeah, let's just go light and ordinary.
In terms of occupancy area. So you hit the search button there, go to your application, extended coverage.
I have a certain sprinkler in mind. We'll see if it brings it up.
I'll let you go through the filtering scheme.
I got it installed back in the day in the tallest building in New York City. So
that's right, you did.
All right, there we go. All right, it's narrowing it down.
Narrow it down then.
Response, obviously it's gonna be quick.
Okay,
And
Packer.
let's, I think it's the 8.0.
Okay,
There it is. Wow.
there you go.
I don't even need to, yeah, that's cool. And then
Then you
does
got
it
your
automatically,
approvals.
you've got, oh, wow, you've got all the different,
Yep.
that's great. Oh, it even changes the color. That's cool. Oh, it has the accessories too. So you got your wrenches and
Exactly.
wow.
Exactly. And then you have the data sheet. You can access the data sheet.
Yep.
You can go to the product web page to get a brief overview of the product.
Yep. I see that. What's this? Oh, this is all the different configurations of the.
These are all the sprinkler heads. Yeah. So these are all the sprinkler heads that were the result of that filtering scheme that you went through. And you can also select if you want to go with concealed or frame style as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you go all the way to the bottom, see where it says advanced search? Drew,
Oh,
go
yeah.
down a little bit more. Yeah, hit advanced search and then you go to concealed.
Oh, this isn't, I know this isn't, I got to move. Let's just move off of all.
There you go.
And light, quick, 8.0.
I actually, probably the best bet is to go select concealed first.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, select concealed first, Drew.
There we go. Concealed only. Okay.
Right.
Then it'll bring them all in there. Okay.
Exactly. So I know, one common head that comes up for concealed type sprinklers, sprinkler heads are the flat plate concealed heads.
Yep. Let's just do all. I know we're spending a lot of time on this. This is really cool, Jim. I like this.
Yeah. So I think everybody gets the idea of how it
Yeah.
works. And then, if you're working in Revit, you can, one of the instruments for dropping a family into Revit is from the sprinkler selector program. The other, of course, is taking it off the ribbon in tools.
You also have supplynet.com available. What is that?
That I don't know.
Is that,
to be
it's
honest with
probably
you,
ordering mechanism.
It could be ordering information.
That's great.
Yeah.
I know supply.com's been a big initiative to try to get people to order through there. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Jim, that particular toggle is for there's a supplynet.com like e-commerce platform.
Yep.
So if you want to get it right from that website, you would click on that, and a lot of the sprinklers are available right on that e-commerce platform.
Okay.
Basically, just takes you right to it. And then I don't want to steal your show. I just wanted to chime in there too for when we start talking about foam. Is we added a new toggle to that particular screen, which you saw foam approved. So any sprinklers.
Wow.
Yeah, right there.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So that's just a recent addition. So if you want to see what fire sprinklers are foam water approved, you could toggle that on, and it'll take you to those particular sprinklers.
That's a great idea, particularly with new fluorine-free foams out there. You need to know which sprinkler discharge devices are approved with that foam, and this would give you that answer.
Yeah, and it's really cool. One of the things that I like to do with people with the sprinkler selector is clear the inputs, and if you undo that toggle right there, and just scroll all the way down to the bottom before you hit that one, and you'll see entries in the bottom left. There's 4,700 different entries of fire sprinklers. So it's not how many we manufacture, but those are the different variations, so to speak, that are available. And then once you click foam, there's 458 different entries that are available as far as configurations, and from finishes to temperatures to K factors, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's big.
Crazy,
That's got to be the biggest number of 458, because I know foam listings on discharge devices is pretty minimal compared to the full range, right? So 458 is a lot. That's great.
Now, again, I'll preface that with it's variations of, right? So if one sprinkler is available in 10 different temperatures, then that would account for 10 of them. You know what I mean? So
that's right.
Or finishes, right? So it's just variations of. But that toggle's on there under that advanced search, and that's a big thing. And just up a little bit is all the data sheets associated with those sprinklers, right? So you can click on the data sheet right there for the sprinkler, and
Yep.
So it's kind of cool. Just extra.
Yeah, I got involved in a few projects over the years where, they have one foam system in there and they liked a certain manufacturer's sprinkler heads. They just tossed it in there and it definitely wasn't listed. And I mean, it's quick to change out a head, but it's still an issue with foam systems. Make sure it's listed correctly.
Yeah,
Sure thing.
exactly.
All right.
So moving on, we've covered all the valves. There we go. So the Viking SFFF foam systems, and I just want to talk a little bit about it before we get our specialist on there, Josh, about this. My job with Viking is to reach out to consulting engineers and end users, insurance companies, to generate interest, to allow me to perform, to do webinars, to have our fire protection product specialists do webinars for these groups. When this product hit the market and it got out there, I had consulting engineers and insurance companies reaching out to me for us to do webinars. So the table was changed there, and we just did one for Boeing on Monday morning. So what I did is, the insurance companies, Chubb, Travelers, Marsh, the list goes on and on. I reached out to them, and what they do is they bring this knowledge to their clients, and then the clients come back to us and they want the webinars, because a lot of the states in the country now are enforcing a mandate that you have to replace the legacy foams that exist in these systems that have PFAS. And what we're attempting to do, and Josh is going to touch on this, is review all the transition considerations that you need to be aware of from a design standpoint, from what products are approved with each other with these foam systems. And I'm going to kind of let Drew pose some questions now, because Drew did have some questions on changing from old to new foam systems, and Josh can touch on it a little bit as well.
Sure. Yeah, and I want to bring this up because it's a hot topic within fire protection. And with all the things that have happened, whether it's the false discharges from a variety of airports throughout the country, right? I think there was a discharge here in Connecticut like a few years ago at Bradley, where it got into the river, and a lot of things happen. And a lot of it's in hangars, but there's also issues with AFFF with testing facilities. I know in Newburgh, New York, another one. So a lot of states are have these guidelines for facilities with existing foam systems, and they have to essentially either full out replace them, come up with a mitigation plan. I know in Connecticut, there's a step-by-step mitigation plan.
Right.
It's not only for fixed foam systems, it's for, municipal on fire trucks and everything as well. So I guess how does, and then the facilities get that from the AHJ or whatever, reach out to random contractors, right? Whether it's a special hazards or a sprinkler contractor. So what does a contractor do when one of these facilities comes to them wanting to change out a system, Josh?
Yeah, so it's a little bit complicated. And so that being said, I'll lead off with the legacy foam concentrates. We typically know as AFFF or FP for fluoroprotein. Those things are all legacy concentrates, and those concentrates that you alluded to, those are all being swapped out because of PFAS concerns and everything else. And it's because of the fluorine that was in those concentrates. So with that in mind, the transition process of some of these fixed systems that are out there can be a little bit complicated. And from a minimalist standpoint, right? So obviously the concentrate would have to change.
Mm-hmm.
And the bladder tank itself, there's concerns with the bladder tank, right? So again, at the minimum, if you have an existing bladder tank that allows for the same capacity,
Yep.
or the capacity for the new foam concentrate, I should say, because in a lot of scenarios, that concentrate capacity is going to increase. So you'd have to upsize your bladder tank. But if the capacity was there based on the hazard and a few other variables, at the least you'd need to change the bladder within the bladder tank to, after getting the concentrate out, to at least transition to that fluorine free. Because if there's any of the old fluorinated foams that are still in that bladder, it's going to contaminate your new foam, right? So that would have to get replaced.
Yep.
And then, from our standpoint, from the Viking side of things, the proportioning device changes too. So the proportioning device, you're familiar with ratio controllers and inline balance pressure proportioners and that kind of stuff. Those have to change to a wide range proportioner. And it basically has to do with the fact that the concentrate is thicker. The viscosity is much different than it was with AFFF and some of the legacy foam concentrates. I mean, it didn't have the exact consistency of water, but it was more water-like when you were, if you had it in a jar and you were trying to, kind of look at it. Where the fluorine-free foams, if you put that in a jar, you can clearly see the viscosity is different, which leads to how do you move that concentrate, and then how do you proportion it correctly? So things are changing as far as that's concerned, because it's just simply a little bit harder to move that concentrate through the piping and get it to where it needs to go and then have it proportioned correctly. So the proportioner changes. And then at the far end of the system, you have discharge devices. There's foam chambers and foam makers and sprinklers and all that kind of stuff. And that being said, at this point, Viking has fire sprinklers approved. We had a very robust product line as far as foam makers and great nozzles and all that kind of stuff. But the testing process, or the approval process, involves specific fuels and discharge devices, and then variations of the discharge devices. So the initial rollout is kind of where we're at now with fire sprinklers,
Yep.
and that robust product line will build back into it.
Now, and I've heard you guys are one or the only manufacturer out there that has the closed head sprinklers approved. So at least with the SFFF, right? Which is a big deal for closed systems.
Yeah, I think there's another manufacturer that has some sprinklers approved.
Yeah.
But it's specific to hydrocarbons, as I understand it.
Okay.
We have closed sprinkler systems approved with alcohol resistant concentrate. So
Oh, wow.
Our concentrate is the Viking ARK, and that ARK is an alcohol resistive concentrate that is also approved for hydrocarbon use. So it's kind of a cover everything, cover all your bases kind of foam concentrate, instead of just having a hydrocarbon concentrate.
Hey, a question. So you got to change out the bladder tank, obviously the concentrate. You got to change out the proportioner, probably some of the piping between that as well.
Yeah.
The discharge devices. What about? I mean, you're going to have to recalc the system, right? On the density and all that. So, I guess I'm getting at, do the piping sizes and does the piping network need to change?
Sure. Yeah, it's not. So there's no simple answer, and I say that because it really depends on the existing system's design. So the density at which it was designed for, the K factor sprinklers that were being used, and all that's going to weigh into it, right? So Viking's densities using synthetic fluorine-free foam, specifically the ARK, the Viking ARK, those densities start at a 0.3. So some of the systems that are out there, some of those legacy systems, you had densities of 0.16 and 0.2.
Yep.
So going from a 0.16 system or a 0.2 system, there are going to be scenarios where, yes, some of that's going to have to be reevaluated, but also reevaluating the size of the bladder tank, because that density has a direct correlation to the capacity of the bladder tank that you need for the duration that you need over the area of the density discharge, right? So
Gotcha.
there's a lot of things that get kind of rolled into that, and it's really based on a case-by-case basis of what is there and how do we go about getting it to a fluorine-free system.
Sure. And I if it's sized correctly, you know, and you can use existing piping. You would probably need to flush it and probably have to incinerate it at that point. Because I know, you know, with testing and all that, you can't just dump the foam. So you got to get it incinerated. And that's where some of those foam testing that kind of recycles that are nice, because you're not having to dump all that foam. But I would think on the existing piping network, you'd need to flush it out pretty good.
So it really comes down to the local authorities and the state, right, on what they expect in the transition process. So in our process, you know, the 4 things that I mentioned were the concentrate, the bladder tank, proportioner, and the discharge devices. Some of that is because of PFAS concerns, and some of it or contamination, right? And then some of it is to make the new system operate the way it needs to.
Right.
You know, when we're flushing it, though, if that was a thing that anybody wanted to do, or that was what the state or some sort of authority was recommending, you know, you got to be careful with that, because that creates, you know, that kind of mixes the water in the existing foam concentrate that's in there. But how far you go in that transition process is really dependent upon local and state authorities, or whoever the AHJ is. I mean, it could be an insurance carrier too.
Yep. Yep.
But yes, what the things that we talked about, though, were at minimum to get an approved system. I mean, there's some discussion around the concentrate piping coming out of the bladder tank being replaced. Now, depending on how large the bladder tank has increased based on new densities, that may need to be replaced anyway, because that is typically dependent upon the size. The concentrate supply is dependent upon the size of the bladder tank. So
Gotcha.
a lot of it, you know, one thing leads to another kind of thing. It's not a simple process.
Now, do you who does that analysis? Is it the engineer, the contractor, the owner? Do you guys provide any of that service, or kind of consulting on that?
Sure. Yeah, we will assist the contractors and the designers to get their system switched over to a fluorine-free system. You know, at the end of the day, it might need design professional assistance, or maybe, you know, again, if everything lines up, it might just be some of the components that are getting replaced and that kind of stuff. I mean, we're definitely here to help, and you know, anybody can reach out to myself or Jim or whatever the case may be. We'll get you the answers. We'll get you where you need to go to make sure we cover all the bases on how things are supposed to go together, and locations of bladder tanks from risers and distances, that kind of stuff. There's a few more things that go into the whole process.
Gotcha. Do you, your thoughts overall? Do you think is AFFF kind of being phased out, or is it, you know, is it like an 80% of the market will be synthetic? And, you know, I know there's still probably application that you'll still need AFFF for, but.
Yeah, so I can speak on, you know, kind of the Viking approach, and that is, you know, we started February 1st, no longer selling AFFF foam.
Oh, wow. Wow.
C6 and C8 foams are, you know, sometimes how they were referred to, but the only foam concentrate that we sell at this point is the Viking ARK, which is the fluorine-free foam, or the synthetic fluorine-free foam, and the X-Max, which is used for a high expansion foam system. So our position is all about the environment, and that's was our decision. So we don't have that available anymore. So that's how we see it going.
Yeah, I can see it going that way. There's so many states that are requiring at least an analysis on their systems, and it'll be, you know, kind of I don't call it the newer Halon. I know there's some clean agent stuff that's getting phased out as well. So this is no, that's good. This is great. I didn't know a lot about this. If there's any questions, by the way, feel free to toss them out there. I know there's been a couple comments that I can bring up toward the end, but cool. What else we got here? Oh, Freezemaster. Jim, you want to give just a brief overview? I have some ITM things on Freezemaster that I'll touch on that I got from Blazemaster. So,
okay, well, basically, you know, the Freezemaster is approved for NFPA 13D systems up to 500 gallons in accordance with the design criteria for 13D. Pretty much the same with 13R. You know, it's the design criteria for 13R up to 500 gallons. Now, for an NFPA 13 design will be required in areas of NFPA 13 or for occupancies such as attics. So that's one of the things you need to concern yourself with. NFPA 13 light hazard approved up to 200 gallons. If you want to, it's also approved between 200 and 500 gallons. But if you're going to go with that type of, you know, in that area, you're going to have to design that to a dry system.
Yeah, right.
Going to go above the 200 gallons, and it's approved for ordinary hazard group 1 and 2 up to 40 gallons, Drew. So it's pretty much gives you an overview of the approvals in those three different categories of 13D, R, and 13 light and ordinary hazard occupancies.
Yeah, and one of the big reasons I thought about Freezemaster is there's a big date coming, right? This deadline of
Yes,
this year.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
The end of September. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of existing systems out there with unlisted antifreeze, right? And it's kind of required now. And I think they pushed this off. They kept pushing off 2 years, but it's, you know, since there's some listed antifreeze in the market now, you know, I think it's going to stick.
Right.
Well, I got a chat here.
The other thing too, the Freezemaster antifreeze is approved with galvanized pipe.
Oh, right.
Okay.
I do have a slide on this, actually.
Pretty much covers all the pipes that are available out there, has approval for them.
Yeah, let me toss this up. So I talked with my pal Sean Pierce at Blazemaster, and he he obviously launched the Freezemaster with you guys, or he's one of the Lubrizol fellows. But
right.
I wanted some just ITM things for inspection, testing, and maintenance, because you're running into a lot of systems out there that are currently existing. So
right.
What's in the listing, UL lists the antifreeze. So obviously there's some considerations here, but I'm not going to get too involved in this. I mean, mainly we're going to look at, here's the different listed antifreezes out there. And like what you said, Jim, Freezemaster is only listed in galvanized pipe. Yep. Some of the other ones are not. And obviously you said you have some ordinary hazard volume limitations, which will probably everybody will expand this as they do more testing and everything.
Yeah, it's an evolving thing. Yeah.
So there hasn't been a solution up until last year or so, and maybe a year and a half ago. So, and this will keep evolving. So stay tuned. But I know Freezemaster has been on top of it, and one of the other things on the ITM side is just testing it, and it's required per NFPA 25 that you're testing your antifreeze. So this is at least what Lubrizol recommends for hydrometers and refractometers and everything. Mm-hmm. Getting your concentration level on that annual basis per NFPA 25 is critical to make sure it's in compliance. And there's a new window for acceptance on that as well. So there's a 5% variation of that concentration that is allowed by the UL listing. So and Sean was explaining to me that if you have a larger system, you better be putting in an expansion tank for that expansion and contraction over those summer months. So Make sure you take that into consideration when designing that system, because when you're going around every year and doing that acceptance, you don't want to have it too diluted out of that 5% range and having to dump more Freezemaster or whatever listed antifreeze into there. So just some guides that wanted to kind of push out there, because heavy inspection component to it. Back to this. Let's see here. Here, I got a couple questions out there.
Okay.
Does Viking sell AFFF 3% substitute for full scale testing? Do you know any full scale testing?
Huh. So I think the testing testing could be one of two things, right? So there are companies out there that use surrogate foam concentrate for testing. Those, so that could be an option as well. But as far as full scale testing is concerned, I mean, anything AFFF is not a thing anymore from a Viking standpoint.
Yeah.
So synthetic fluorine-free foam, on the other hand, extra foam can be purchased as a part of the approval process. That way, when you're doing your testing, you have enough concentrate to put back into the bladder tank itself. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that helps. So what happens to the grate nozzle? There's a question in here.
Yeah, so the grate nozzle is currently not approved with SFFF foam, but we are actively and aggressively working to get the foam product line back to where it was, pre-transition to synthetic fluorine-free foam.
Yeah.
So I guess the point there is, we're in I want to say the preliminary stages of synthetic fluorine-free foam being rolled out, and we got to start somewhere, right? So we have some products that are approved that we can kick off with, and then as we get moving into this process, additional products will get tested and approved. And again, all of that work takes time, and it obviously is quite expensive to do, which we're committed to doing. It's just not approved at this particular point in the game, but we do plan to get back to that point for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I know that's a Jimmy. You part of your career is made off the grate nozzle, right?
Yes. Exactly.
That's a great. I remember just the explanation of it, and yeah, it's a great idea. So it'd be cool to see once that's listed again.
So I think sometime, Josh, are you anticipating third quarter for availability of that foam for use with the grate nozzle?
I was told that sales guys would pressure me into time frame and to resist that urge. Because
well, I'm no longer in sales. I'm just curious.
Good point.
Just curious, Josh.
I honestly, I don't know the exact time frame, but I know that there's some testing going on now. But there's different variations and versions of the grate nozzle. So I'm not sure of all the different tests that need to occur with each particular model or version of it, right? Because there's 360s, there's 180s, there's 90s,
right?
And that kind of stuff.
And yeah, the helideck grate nozzle too, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all in that category, especially with other things like foam chambers and foam makers for more of the industrial application and monitor nozzle. So it's all in the works from a time frame standpoint. I can't offer anything other than and I don't want to sound like a sales guy by not answering the question either. But to that point, I use the words actively and aggressively seeking additional approvals because we want to get back to that wide product range. So we just have to.
I believe that what the Navy is doing now, Drew, is they're proceeding with the installation of the grate nozzle systems. They're just not putting the foam in there.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, because you're waiting on the listing, right? You might
And
you might need to upsize your densities and all that. That's all, right?
I don't know if it's going to have an impact.
Okay.
On the density, I really don't. I'm picking up all this information from just talking with people like Josh, Bob Kuntz, and Martin. But I do know that's what the Navy's doing now. And, the private sector is anxiously waiting for it because it's now a factory mutual approved product.
Yep.
And you get into the private sector, Boeing, Southwest, United Airlines, they would prefer to go with with a foam system that's designed just for underwing protection.
Underwing, yeah, not ruining the plane.
Exactly. And one quick story though, Drew, about the grate nozzle, and I'm going back well over a quarter of a century now. And when I was speaking with the head fire protection engineer for the Navy, he let me know what he was attempting to do. And I brought Martin in, and he and Martin kind of worked it all out, the whole concept of the grate nozzle. But it kind of languished in limbo there for a while because they needed to get funds from the House of Representatives to move forward. So one day there was this horrible storm that went through Washington, D.C., and that storm tripped the detection on Air Force One and dumped all the high expansion foam all over Air Force One about 2 to 3 hours before the president was heading over to Andrews to go somewhere. And the head fire protection engineer for the Navy gets a call from the Secret Service. Hey, what's going on? You know, the president's supposed to be leaving. They got a foam system dumping on Air Force One. Well, they got their funds from the House of Representatives real quick, and a great nozzle became available to the industry a lot sooner as a result of that incident.
Wow. That's yeah. I know you've had to deal with a lot of
That's how Washington works.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, Josh, Michael, I'm just looking at some questions here. That's why I was pausing. The new ARK SFFF, is it only available in 3%?
Yeah, so the Viking ARK, all the approvals are at 3%. 3% is for fresh water, working with fresh water to create your solution, obviously. There is a 6% version of it, but that's for seawater, and it's not in the approvals that we have at this point. So we are approved at 3%, 3% only, and that 3% is with fresh water.
Great. Another one here from David Dodge. What have you seen an average increase? What's been the average increase of bladder type size? I know that's, but overall, what do you think it's increasing?
Well, so at a systems that had a 0.16, original design, right? So if you, depending on the standard and everything, but I think using like a 10-minute duration, it shakes out to about 276 gallons of foam concentrate. But using that, so just changing that density to a 0.3, right? So Viking's densities start at 0.3, some are 0.4s depending on the fuel specific.
Yep.
But that increases, just going from a 0.16 to a 0.3, I think it took it to about 518 gallons of foam concentrate from 276, if I remember correctly, foam concentrate, right? So that is going to drive an increase in the bladder tank, because the bladder tank, when you had that 276 gallons, you could use a 300-gallon bladder tank. When you use 518 gallons of concentrate, you got to go to a 600-gallon capacity bladder tank, right? So it does change things, and that's for sure. I mean, that is the honest to God truth there, and that increase or that upsize in your bladder tank might also drive a change in maybe depending on the space where this is located, it might change whether you have a horizontal and need to go vertical, or vertical and need to go horizontal. So that could definitely drive some changes as well.
Wow. No, it's good stuff. I'm glad we're there's a lot of foam's a hot topic, like I said. I think I got one more Q&A. Will there be a mil spec replacement for AFFF?
And I'll speak on where we stand now. We have one concentrate approved at this point, and it's the Viking ARK. I know the question was, will there be? And that's hard to say because right now the technology is so new. But at this point, we have the Viking ARK, and that is the only thing that we have approved as far as synthetic fluorine-free foam is concerned for low expansion systems.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I mean, I'm sure there will be a few more questions in. I know we only got about 3 or 4 minutes left. I'll get into some training opportunities in a second, but I did want to kind of announce to this webinar, and probably the public as well, we are working with Viking at Inspect Point on some integrations with essentially Viking supply net pricing. So if you are using Inspect Point's platform for NFPA 25, foam systems, clean agent, whatever you're using it for, extinguisher, whatever business you're in, you'll be able to bring in your Viking supply net pricing. just reach out to your territory manager. We've had about 4 or 5 customers already bring their Viking supply net costing in. So essentially, if you see it here, essentially the whole Viking price book is brought into here. Maybe not the entire one, but at least the net pricer. So it has your lists, the current list. So we are doing this via CSV. It's not live. Eventually, when we want to get it to live, where it's updating prices on the fly. But then obviously you can put your costs and your markups in there so that you're quoting replacement parts, replacement heads, or even just small jobs. You have all costing correct. So again, love working with Viking, have for a while, and wanted to keep it going here at Inspect Point. So more to come on this, by the way. It was just a little teaser. Jimmy, you want to hit on any of the training opportunities? We got a few minutes left.
Yeah. I mean, many are probably familiar with the seminars that we used to conduct at our facility in Hastings, Michigan. And, we're offering those seminars, 2-day seminars now out in Caledonia, Michigan, in our new facility. And Josh, you have, there are two classes, correct? One's an introductory class that really just touches on the basics. And then there's a more advanced class that gets into pre-action, foam, and clean agent, correct?
Yeah, so the courses, so we actually just realigned the courses, or Jim Lake, the VP of training, just realigned those courses. We originally started out with the two-day programs, like you mentioned. But I think for 2022, his intention is to run a 3-day course on the water-based side. So
Okay.
it'll be like sprinklers, wet and dry the first day, deluge pre-action, and some other specialty systems the second day, with a third day. We've made some changes to what we have here. So the third day will be like a troubleshooting lab where we'll have some different things set up, and you'll be able to troubleshoot some different risers and maybe use some repair kits, that kind of stuff, to kind of facilitate all of that. So should be a really good opportunity. And then we have foam is certainly going to be a hot topic this year, so that we're probably have a 4th day that's optional, which will end up being some stuff on foam. So,
and there are a number of other not tools, but what probably the most impressive feature you have out there is that hydraulic lab, Josh.
Yeah.
And you're going to expand on that for the attendees, because typically you're the one that's doing the presentation for that hydraulic lab.
Yeah, we have quite a bit going on. So I mean, we have a whole riser lab with there's 17 functioning systems in that lab that can be tripped and tested and restored, from double interlock system pre-actions to single interlocks, dry pipes, wet systems, fire cycle 3, pilot pressure regulating, all these different types of risers we have functioning down there. We have the flow lab, where we can demonstrate different sprinkler flow patterns and talk about some of the stream characteristics from those devices. There's 2 fixed hose monitor nozzles if you want, so they can flow. It's actually pretty impressive, 1,000 gallons of water at 100 psi and oscillate in the lab. So that's a recent addition, which is kind of cool to see. And then kind of a components thing. I mean, if you're familiar with Viking, we use things like pressure operated relief valves and pneumatic actuators, that kind of stuff. So we can hook up those components individually and see how they function. Same thing with accelerators. We can kind of take them off to the side and hook them up and do some hands-on with those as well. So all those different options are here. We have a couple foam systems and some clean agent systems as well that you can put your hands on. So the training center here is quite expansive and available for anybody to use. The training is free, and you get a lunch out of it. You just got to get yourself here and pay for your accommodations. We don't let anybody sleep in the parking lot though. So just
maybe I got to do an inspection, testing, and maintenance class out there.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, get in touch with Jim Lake. See what you can do.
Yeah, I might have to do that. And I
You
know
know,
you guys have
another,
quarterly.
another offering we have out there, Drew, is our micro learning sessions. They're only 3 to 6, 7 minutes long. It can touch on flow control technology. It can touch on residential technology. They're excellent sessions for someone who's getting into the industry, entry-level designer, entry-level technician, to go there. And if you want to learn more about residential sprinkler technology, it touches on 13R, 13D, light hazard residential, the design criteria, the different sprinkler heads that are available. And another class is devoted strictly to concealed sprinkler heads, concealed cover plates.
Wow.
What type of cover plates are available, colors, sizes. So,
Nice. I had one, you got some Viking tech talks here, which is pretty cool. I haven't listened to the podcast yet, but maybe I'll have them on maybe I'll have Jim on my podcast to talk about podcasting.
the tech talk that they do on factory neutrals, recent revisions to FMDS 8.9 is very impressive.
Okay.
Those revisions are significant, and I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, James Gollenbo and Jim Lake do that tech talk. So that's
Nice.
definitely worth taking a visit to.
Cool. And Jim, I know we're coming up on the hour here, or we're actually past the hour.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate everybody for being on. This is Jim's info. I'm sure you can get a hold of Josh if there's any questions. One question I did have from an anonymous attendee, which is weird when somebody would put anonymous. What's the anticipated density of the UL listed SFFF?
So currently the SFFF we're approved through FM and not UL.
Right.
So I wouldn't be able to speak on what anything anticipated is with UL because it's all in the future.
Still tested.
So,
yeah.
So, I can the only thing I can point out is we're FM approved and the density started at 0.3, and dependent upon the fuel or the hazard, so to speak, it could be a 0.4. So, and that information is right on the FM approval website. So you can just go on there and you can look at all the different devices and their approvals. So yeah.
Cool. Well, Josh, Jim, thank you very much. This was great. It's the first time really doing this. So we'll have to do it again more once you guys, if there's some more products that come out, maybe this summer or this fall.
Definitely. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it.
Thanks everybody. Got a lot of good shout outs.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye now.